Sitaram and good morning to everyone. We are here to honor the life and say goodbye to our dear and beloved Daddy when we were younger, Aja, Mausa, Uncle, and as we sometimes called him too, the boss. For rock fans, you can see it was not always Bruce Springsteen who had that title. So did our Aja. Today is one of the saddest days for those of us who were lucky enough to have been touched by Dad's wonderful presence. As we reflect on his life's journey, we will remember the immense impact that he had on all of us who were fortunate enough to know him. Dad, our Aja, was many things to all of us in this life. He was a dedicated and loving husband, a father, a grandfather, a great-grandfather, a father-in-law, brother-in-law, uncle, relative, and friend. For those of us who knew him, he was our guiding light, a source of unconditional love and a tower of strength. His kindness and compassion knew no bounds and extended to everyone. By his guidance and comforting demeanor, he leaves behind an indelible mark in the hearts of everyone who were lucky enough to pass his way. Sonny Parmasar was the father of 8 boys, a grandfather of 13, and great-grandfather to 4. Before that, he was a devoted elder son and a sibling to 4 brothers and 3 sisters, who all passed before him. Dad was born in a little village called Gandhi Village on the 1st of April 1933. He was 1 month shy of his 91st birthday when he took his last breath on this planet on Sunday the 17th of March 2024 at 12:45 p.m. As a husband, he was both dedicated and loving to our late departed and wonderful mama. So dedicated that when our mom passed, he cried every day for over a year for her. And when dementia robbed him of his memory, he still always remembered to say that she was a blessed lady. He is and always will be our father, our rock. He took care of us, held our hands, carried our worries and burdens on his shoulders, and yet he lifted us so high he made you feel like you could fly. He was just as loving and caring a grandfather, great-grandfather, father-in-law, brother, uncle, and simply the person that you could ever hope to meet. Our dad and Aja was a remarkable man. He is one of the most honorable men that you will ever know. He was a decent, kind, honest, dignified, caring, and loving man. At the same time, he was also just as incredibly intelligent and brilliant. He always had good words of encouragement, advice, and wisdom for everyone who was lucky enough to be in his presence. And everyone he and my mother could help, they did so without ever thinking twice, even though they themselves in the early years did not have a whole lot for themselves. Dad was also a hero. I remember when we were kids, we went fishing one day by the sea. When we were returning, he was holding Shami in his hands. On a large rock, he slipped and fell. But instead of letting go, he held on to him and took the full brunt of the injury to himself. We later had to go to the hospital, but at no point did Dad ever think of letting go. It was both physical and symbolic. His family was everything to him, and he was very selfless in all of his actions. I remember sitting next to him on his bed in his final weeks when he was in a lot of pain and pain medications could not be given or did not work. And instead of praying for himself, I will always remember his crying prayer that day for the rest of my life. Please, Bhagwan, don't let my children suffer like me. Even in that moment, it never dawned on him that he should pray for himself. He always had words of wisdom and advice and to encourage everyone to become the best that they can be and to realize their full potentials, and always to be the best versions of themselves. His wisdom was passed on to everyone whenever he had an opportunity to do so. I remember once in my younger years, when I used to lie late, he told me not to stay out so late. I told him he had 8 sons, so if anything happens to one, me, it wouldn't be such a big deal. His response to me, "You have 10 fingers. Let me cut out one and then you tell me how you will feel." That wisdom taught me 2 things. 1, how much he valued each of his sons. And 2, I never questioned his wisdom again after that. I am sure every one of his children and grandchildren would have similar stories to tell of their own. When I was a teenager in college, teachers would sometimes ask whom we thought were the greatest persons, and answers invariably would be world leaders and presidents. However, I always thought of my father. Back then, I was young and naive. Now I am older and hopefully wiser. Now I know that Sonny Parmasar, Dad Aja, is undoubtedly the greatest man I will ever know. You see, life is what you make of it, not only what you start with. And when you start with so little as he did, and yet create so much as he did, that is the measure of greatness. That was our dad, our Aja. Dad was not given a whole lot in his early life, and one would say that life was tough on him back then. He was forced to leave primary school at an early age, but he was resilient enough to educate himself. He did many jobs to provide for his family. He worked in the early days in rice fields and gardening. He told us of his early jobs as a laborer, lifting crates of soft drinks and 100-pound bags of potatoes on his shoulders, of loading trucks with gravel and sand until he could get his own truck. And even then, how he would sit with Mama's dad sometimes for days until they could get one load to transport for a customer so he could get money to take care of his young family. He told us too of one day when he almost lost his life when a mountain of sand covered him while he was loading a truck, and how he had to be pulled out of it to safety. There's another story I remember as a young kid, when Dad worked taxi for someone. He would pay the owner of the car $12 per day, and whatever extra he made would be his salary. He got sick one week and couldn't drive, so he subcontracted the taxi to someone else for $13 a day. That meant $1 for himself and his family. I wonder what kinds of thoughts go through your head when you have to take care of a young family and that is your situation. However, Dad soldiered on, for he had a much higher goal for himself and his family. This very house that we are saying goodbye to him from, he literally built with his own hands. He was an expert carpenter and a master fisherman who wove his own nets. He was too a seasoned gardener until the very end. So much so that Dave had to lock the back gate to prevent him from going to his garden when he was too weak to do so. He cultivated a bountiful garden that fed so many for so long. Aja was also an excellent and versatile cook who created our Christmas Eve tradition, something that everyone always looks forward to. And he was the first to begin a speech at family gatherings, always with positive words of value. But while the early years were tough and the last months challenging, in his prime, Sonny Parmasar was a towering giant, a formidable warrior and a king of kings. There was nothing, absolutely nothing, to stop him from creating a better world for himself and his loved ones. And we are all the beneficiaries of that struggle and willpower. I would like to think that his later years brought him much joy, and he was filled with much happiness when his children grew up and had their own families, when his children and grandchildren excelled and succeeded in so many areas, and when his great-grandchildren came into the world. Hopefully, at that time, the struggles of his early years for both himself and Mama was worth it all. I know they would have been filled with immense pride. You see, like Mama, Dad, our Aja, was also our biggest fan. Over time, Dad achieved financial stability that he sought when he became a tank wagon driver, driving some of the biggest gas tankers all over the country. He even created a cooperative society where he was president and chairman when a company that he worked for closed during the recession of the 1980s. He met with ministers and put forward financial proposals so that even his fellow workers would not be left on the breadline, and they too could take care of their families. Dad did not only think of his family alone, he thought of others. That was the measure of greatness for our dad, our Aja. So while today is one of the saddest days we will ever experience in our lives, to say goodbye to such a cherished hero, there is also a sense of relief. For someone who did so much for so many people, he suffered too much pain in the end. Dementia robbed him of the memory of his beloved Mama and of his beautiful mind. He mourned too much for his beloved wife, and pain medications either could not be given or could not help. And still, the wonderful person that he was, Dad still found a way to shine through from time to time, even in the difficult last months of his life, with a smile, a joke, or a witty remark of that intelligent and beautiful brain. But while he may have been in pain, in the end, one thing I can say is that he was surrounded by love and comfort from all those whose lives he had touched. They had not forgotten him. You did not forget him. So at this stage, I would like to say thank you to all those who looked out for our dad and Aja, especially in the latter part of his life when he could not do a whole lot for himself. Even the nurses and guards at the hospitals in his last weeks were moved to say that Sonny was a loved man by the attention they saw that he got. I made sure to tell them that was because of the man he was in his own life, and now it was our turn to repay that kindness. So I want to thank everyone, and if I forget anyone today, please forgive me. However, you know who you are, and everything you have done is very much appreciated. First, to all family members on my mother's and father's sides who took the time to visit him and look out for him, it always cheered him up. And for everyone who helped at the wake, thank you all so much. Even everyone at the hospital were very good to him. To all the family members, we appreciated all the love, care, concern, and support that he provided, especially in the difficult last part of his life. To Raj and Shanta for everything you did and for all the support and prayers. To Shelley, Sandy, Kimberly, Jody, for your constant calls and support. It showed how much you really cared, and I can tell you all that you all made his last days, as difficult as it was, so much better for him. I saw the love for him there. Ravi for stepping up big time when he needed it. And Kenny, Shami, and Mitra and your families, we know your support and concern were always there. Binna and Matri, thank you for providing support and comfort for Dad's last days. Matri with her leg not working so well, and Binna even with eye surgery, physically taking care of Dad when he himself should have been taking things easy. As the big son and big brother, I can tell you that brought much joy and comfort to our father, especially in his last months. To all the sons and your families, to all the grandchildren and great-grandchildren, and to all the relatives, thank you all for the joy you gave to his life and the comfort, care, and support in the latter difficult phase. Thank you all. To Dave, Gemma, Amit, and Amisha, thank you so much for all that you did. There can never be enough words to express the appreciation for the care that you took of Aja and Mama before that, and how much of your own lives you all gave up to do so, and without even a second thought to do so. I did not only see care, but I saw love to go along with that care. Gemma, the family will always be grateful to you because you did a hero's work for both our father and our mother. If we had a sister and she did 1/10 of what you had done, we would say that we were lucky. What you have done is immeasurable. And Dave, I have left you for last, but thank you for everything you have done for Aja and Mama before that. All of us will always be grateful, for no one could do as much as you have without ever asking for much in return. I know how many nights you went without sleep so that you could watch to ensure that Dad did not pull out his catheter or fall when he tried to walk when he was too weak to do so. It has not gone unnoticed. Even the night you took him to the hospital and I told you to call if you needed a rest. Instead, you stayed with Dad all night while the rest of us slept in our beds. I personally could not even begin to thank you enough for all that you have done. I will still remember that when Mama passed, you were out on a Sunday looking for an open drugstore to get medication for her that she never got a chance to use. You have brought honor to your parents and to all of us as a grateful, thankful family. And most of all to you, Dad, thank you. Thank you, Dad. Today, as we say goodbye to you, our Dad and Aja, we want to thank you for all that you are and all that you have been to us. We were incredibly blessed to have had the light of you and our Mama in our lives. We could never have asked for or prayed for to have a better Dad or Aja like you. Everything that we could ever have in this life, or our children, every success comes because you and Mama worked so hard and sacrificed so much to give us all the things in our lives that you yourselves never had an opportunity for in your own lives. Dad, you lifted crates of soft drinks on your shoulders so that we, your children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren will not have to. You worked the hardest of jobs with physical labor, lifted 100-pound bags of produce so that we would not have to. For that, we will always be grateful. It is a debt of life we can never repay. But Dad, Aja, we will never forget. The legacy of you and Mama will be passed on for generations to come. How two young people started a life with so little and gave the whole world to all of us and to our children, grandchildren, and in time to come, our children's children. So Dad, Aja, your work here is done. It was done for a while now, but we know you. You still wanted to stick around a little longer just to make sure that we were still okay, even if it meant suffering a little bit more. That is the measure of the person that you are. But go rest now, Dad. You have earned it 1,000,000 times over. Go meet your parents and your siblings who went long before you. And go meet the love of your life and your soulmate, Mama, who is waiting there for you with the biggest smile ever. You belong there. You deserve to be happy. We will miss you so much, and there will be the biggest void in our world that can never be filled. But you will always live on in our hearts and minds forever. We will miss the welcome home with that wonderful smile and comforting arm when you saw us. The make sure you eat and drink something. And the God bless you when you received the smallest of kindness. They say we know two things in this world. First, you are born and then you die. It is what you do in the middle that matters. So Dad, what you and Mama have done will be etched in our hearts forever. So go meet Mama and be with God in this universe where you belong. Even with dementia, the one thing you always remember to say was your prayer and to offer your water. And Lord Bhagwan, I think, owes you one for someone who did so much for all of us and for what you went through in the end. He has to make sure that you become one with him. Like Mama, I can think of no one who deserves this more. When Mama passed, I said that when we look up to the stars at night and see the one that's dancing the most, it will be Mama. Now, when we look up, we will see two stars, one dancing even more and one shining brightly beside it. And we will know it is the two of you still looking down over us, still guiding our way. So rest in peace, Dad, Aja. There is no more pain, there is no more suffering. We love you. We will always carry the love and care that you gave to us in our hearts for the rest of our lives. It has and always will be the greatest honor and privilege of our lives to have been blessed with the presence of you and Mama in it. You and Mama shone your light in our lives, and now we will carry that light with us. May Lord Bhagwan protect your soul now, for just like Mama's, it is the purest soul we will ever know in our lives. So goodbye now, Dad. Goodbye. Farewell one more time, Aja. We will always love you. May your soul attain moksha. Sitaram.